My mother was always genuinely worried about my extremely difficult and quarrelsome nature, sincerely fearing that with such a character I risked remaining alone forever and meeting old age as a confirmed bachelor. Wanting to somehow instill in me a sense of responsibility and an understanding of family values, she personally created a small doll for me, strictly instructing me to protect it like the apple of my eye, as if it were some kind of important life mission. I distinctly remember standing there, staring at this girl with undisguised irritation. She was only a year older than me, but she carried herself with such self-assurance and aplomb as if she were a general commanding an entire army. My dislike for her was so deep and sincere that one day, tired of her constant moralizing, I seriously considered running away from home to my 7 aunts, just to never again see her perpetually lecturing, self-satisfied face. Who could have predicted that she would be so perceptive and intercept me right at the door? She simply gave me a bold, confident smirk and without a shred of embarrassment declared, "I'm your future bride, so whether you like it or not, I'll follow you wherever you go." From that very memorable day onwards, she became my shadow. She followed me everywhere, relentlessly following me with the persistence and importunity of a small but surprisingly devoted bug. We spent so much time together that in the minds of all our friends and neighbors, I became inextricably linked to her, finally cementing my status as her only childhood friend, from whom there was no escape. Our life flowed along at its measured pace until 3 years ago, when a terrible event occurred that forever destroyed the familiar order of our cozy world. In the very heart of the capital, a gigantic, terrifying anomaly suddenly appeared, a chasm in space that, like an insatiable maw, swallowed up all the peace and predictability of our former life. My obsessive companion's family, like many other city residents, were forced to panic and pack their things and hastily evacuate to the distant city of Tianhai, hoping to find salvation there from the chaos that had engulfed the world. Just before leaving, shedding bitter tears, grabbed me with a death grip and looking me straight in the eyes, whispered in a trembling voice, "Hold on tightly to my long hair and remember, you gave your word, you are obligated to marry me. Never, do you hear, never forget that promise." In the end, driven not only by a sense of duty but also by a strange longing, I made a conscious decision to leave the prestigious Qingbei University and transfer to Tianhai, because that was where she was, the only person close to me, my inseparable childhood friend. At that very moment, the head of the university, straining with zeal, was speaking on stage, trying to shout over the noise of the crowd, opening the ceremonial meeting for the newly arrived first-year students. I didn't look closely at the faces of those shouting something from the crowd under the stage, but I still caught an intriguing whisper out of the corner of my ear. "Watch closely, a real sensation is about to appear at our party that you definitely won't want to miss." I noticed a glass of milk tea in the hands of the man who entered, and everyone around him, as if on command, involuntarily began to steal glances at this mysterious guest. A burning curiosity awakened in me. What was so unusual about this guy that his appearance caused such a stormy response and excitement in the hall? I finally saw him, the legendary figure, the stuff of vague rumors, ash-blonde hair, long legs, and a cold gaze that seemed to emanate an icy winter chill. He looked flawless, almost unreal. And then there was that thin silk thread gracefully flowing behind his head. For some inexplicable reason, it made me think for a split second of my fiancée, whom I hadn't seen for ages. I immediately shook my head vigorously, driving away these unwelcome thoughts. What difference did it make what some student looked like? I have a fiancée and my word to her, and I intend to remain faithful to her alone. Although I had not seen her for 10 years and had no idea how much she had changed, our old marriage contract was still in force, and the wedding was supposed to take place before the end of this year. A murmur of confusion rose from the crowd. "That's Liu Ruyan, the university's second beauty, right? Why did she bring milk tea to an official meeting?" Everyone froze, holding their breath, awaiting the outcome. All I could see was the glass in her hands as she slowly and carefully scanned the crowd, clearly looking for someone she needed only. Suddenly, a soft, incredibly sincere smile lit up her face. Her gaze focused on me, and the next second, without a moment's hesitation, she resolutely walked straight toward me. "Brother, this milk tea is for you," she said, coming close, and such warmth shone in her beautiful eyes that I was momentarily taken aback. This scene left everyone around me in shock. Who was I that Liu Ruyan herself would personally treat me to tea? Dozens of stunned, envious glances immediately turned to me. I think I was so stunned by what was happening and knocked out of reality that at first I didn't even recognize her in this new guise. Noticing my obvious confusion, she handed me the glass again and with a slight, barely perceptible smile asked, "Junior, don't you like my milk tea?" The crowd around me literally went wild. What had gotten into this famously cold beauty today? Not only had she broken her usual aloofness, but she was looking at me as if I was the only one in the entire room. While I was feverishly trying to figure out how to behave and whether I should accept this sudden sign of attention, a strange, dry, mechanical voice suddenly sounded in the depths of my consciousness. Ding! Congratulations, the Divine Oyster System has been activated. Option 1, accept tea from Liu Ruyan. Reward, 100-fold increase in personal consumption. Option 2, give up the tea. Reward, a 10-centimeter long ding-ding bonus. The system's sound seemed absurd, but the response was instantaneous. After comparing the options, I chose the first one without a second thought, deciding it was safer. I took the glass and muttered words of gratitude, though my soul was still in utter chaos. We had nothing in common, so why had she decided to do me such an honor? Ding! Mission accomplished. Reward 100x multiplier activated. Duration 24 hours. Maximum limit 100,000 units. I could barely contain the excitement that overwhelmed me. No need for thanks, Junior. We'll see each other again. She smiled at me and then added more quietly, almost to herself, I'm ready to follow you even to the ends of the earth. I decided to play along with this strange game and politely asked, Liu Senior, may I know the reason for such unexpected generosity on your part? Hearing my voice, the other students in the hall began to whisper. Who would have thought that she had such a mysterious, daring interlocutor? It's probably Wen Yan, they guessed. I thanked her again for the treat, trying to maintain a calm appearance so as not to reveal my inner turmoil. Goodbye, Junior, and yes, you must drink this tea yourself. She turned, gave me a farewell smile, and gracefully walked away. That smile was so blindingly bright that the guys around me literally started drooling with envy as they watched it. I stood there slightly confused. Frankly, I hated milk tea, it was too sweet, but since she'd clearly said, only for myself, I had no choice but to keep it. I couldn't care less about the envious glances the other guys were giving me. After the party ended, I headed back to the dorms completely alone. Having received such an incredible bonus from the system, I was eager to test its capabilities in practice. I immediately headed to the most expensive restaurant located near the campus to treat myself to a real feast at the expense of my newfound system powers. Meanwhile, Liu Ruyan returned to her room and, spinning in front of the mirror, grumbled indignantly. What a fool you are, my dear brother. 10 long years have passed and you don't even recognize me. But in fact, this was quite forgivable. Over the years, the small, plump girl had grown into a dazzling beauty, and she had even changed her name. At that moment, 3 of her close friends burst into her room. Ruyan, were you seriously at the gala party today? Lin Beiwei asked, breathless with unbearable curiosity. Yes, it's true, she replied calmly, causing a storm of uncontrollable emotion in all 3 of them. Oh my God, so those incredible rumors online are absolutely true. Did you buy that milk tea especially for that freshman? Flashed through the room as her friends stared at her. Everyone at the university knew that Liu Ruyan was the most stunning and desirable woman to emerge from Tianhai University in the last 100 years. Dozens of wealthy heirs were hot on her heels, willing to do anything for her attention. But she rejected them all without exception, earning her the nickname Snow Queen. No one could have imagined that today she would take such an initiative for the sake of some ordinary newcomer. Liu Ruyan was momentarily visibly embarrassed by her friend's intense, almost scanning gazes. She desperately wanted to confess the truth. This guy was my betrothed, my fiancé, the one I'd waited for 10 years. But her cold, rational mind told her that now was far from the right moment for such a loud and personal revelation. A sly, mischievous glint flickered in my bride's eyes. She clearly wasn't eager to lay her cards on the table right away and let me guess that she was the same annoying girl from childhood with whom we shared memories. If I was so absent-minded as to not recognize her right away, well, she'd continue her game, throwing up signs of attention until I finally remembered everything myself. Liu Ruyan was worried that moving to a new city might put me on a budget, so she decided to be more subtle. I'm inviting you all to dinner, are you coming? She suggested, hoping that if my budget was limited, my refusal of her generosity wouldn't make me feel awkward. She masterfully calculated her friends' tastes, luring them to a specific establishment to distract their prying eyes from her true target, me. Of course, as soon as she started talking about going to a restaurant, her friends, flattered by the attention of such a university star, immediately and happily agreed, not suspecting that they had become just a cover for her love strategy. Meanwhile, having finished my sumptuous meal, I leisurely made my way to the cashier. The bill came to 7,500 yuan. Thanks to the activated double bonus from my Divine Oyster system, I instantly received 750,000 yuan. The net profit from this consumption amounted to a remarkable sum, over $1 million. The realization of how easily money could come in this world made my head spin, and I desperately wanted to spend it wisely so as not to arouse suspicion. But as soon as I turned around, I noticed the other restaurant patrons looking with obvious interest toward the window, whispering among themselves. I followed their gaze and froze in place. 4 girls were sitting at a distant table, and among them was Liu Ruyan, who had recently treated me to tea. As a token of gratitude for her initiative, I decided to use my remaining extra 2,500 yuan to return the favor. I returned to the cashier and, trying to look as casual as possible, said, "Boss, I'd like to pay the bill for the girls sitting by the window." Yes, all 4 of them, rounded up to 2,000 yuan. The owner of the establishment, having carefully examined the receipt, looked at me over her glasses with undisguised surprise. "Are you sure, man? They're billing for a completely different amount and you'll spend much more than you need to." The remaining 500 yuan was nagging at me. The system demanded precise conditions be met to activate the multiplier. I quickly found a solution. Then add the most expensive French mousse cake from your menu to their order, bringing the total to exactly 2,500 yuan. The hostess nodded understandingly, appreciating my romantic impulse, and went to the girls' table, having prepared a cover story in advance that this was supposedly a prize fund for their restaurant, so as not to put the guest in an awkward position. "Okay, young man, that'll be 2,500 yuan, the hostess said, watching me leave with a kind, understanding look. She was sure I was a secret admirer, hopelessly in love with this beauty but too shy to approach her in person. Ding! 2,500 yuan consumption confirmed. A 100x bonus of 250,000 yuan has been successfully credited to your account. I sighed contentedly. The mission had been accomplished perfectly, and my wallet had noticeably weighed down. At this moment, Liu Ruyan, having finished her dinner, reached into her purse for her phone, intending to pay the bill, but her path was blocked by a waiter with a very puzzled look. "Ms. Liu, our restaurant is holding a holiday lottery and your table is the winning one," the hostess explained with a beaming smile, personally placing an exquisite mousse cake in front of her. "Everything is already paid for by the house." However, Liu Ruyan wasn't one to be fooled by cheap tricks. She furrowed her elegant brows. "Boss, don't lie to me. Who really paid our bill? If you don't tell the truth, we won't set foot in your restaurant again." The hostess broke out in a cold sweat at such directness. She knew this girl had a steely character. Sighing, she gave in. Okay, don't be angry. It was the guy who just left. He asked me to tell you this is your winnings. And the cake was his personal request too," she added, watching with apprehension as a strange, bright fire lit up the beauty's eyes instead of anger. Liu Ruyan rose decisively from the table, ignoring her friend's confusion. "Where is that guy? I have to return his money immediately." I was just lingering at the exit, adjusting my white jacket, when the hostess, making excuses to Liu Ruyan, involuntarily waved her hand in my direction. Upon seeing me, Liu Ruyan froze in place, and her beautiful face reflected an undisguised, almost childish excitement, which she immediately tried to hide. "Oh, it's him!" She immediately changed her tone, noticing the curious glances of her friends. "Then forget it, it's not important. I'll thank him another time if I see him." The friends and the hostess looked at each other in complete bewilderment, not understanding why such a determined girl suddenly backed down. "Ruyan, who is this handsome man, and why did you react so strangely when you saw him?" Lin Beiwei practically pounced on her with questions, sensing that there was some secret hidden here. "Oh, it's too late, we have to get back, we have an early start tomorrow," she snapped, feigning a rush to avoid further questioning. Liu Ruyan, without looking back, quickly ran out of the restaurant into the cool evening air. Lin Beiwei and the others were shocked by such sudden agility. It was obvious Liu Ruyan didn't want to reveal her hand, and I, noticing her haste, couldn't help but watch her go, wondering what was going on in her mind. "We've been fooled again. Okay, let's forget about that guy, but what are we going to do with this damn cake now?" the remaining friends complained indignantly. "No, this cake is just for me." Liu Ruyan clutched the dessert tightly to her, as if it were her greatest treasure, terrified it would be taken away. It was the first gift from her fiancé in 10 long years, and she intended to enjoy it alone. The next morning after lectures, Liu Ruyan returned to the dormitory in an elevated, almost dreamy mood. which was completely uncharacteristic for the Snow Queen. Lin Beiwei followed, holding an envelope in her hand. "Hey, is there anyone named Xiao Yao in our dorm? Where did this letter with such a strange old name come from?" "This is for me," she replied, feeling her face flush. It was a letter from her grandmother. She remembered with horror her lie about her permanent name change. 10 years ago, when they moved, her father, obsessed with feng shui advice, changed her name to bring good luck and prosperity to the Liu family. It worked. Their business grew into a huge corporation, but at the cost of forgetting her roots. However, her grandmother, the only person who preserved her true identity, continued to write to her using her old name. Reading the warm words, Liu Ruyan couldn't help but smile at her thoughts. Grandmother knew her better than anyone in the world. In the letter, she enclosed a sketch of the wedding dress painstakingly tailored to her measurements. She didn't even write about the engagement itself. She simply described how her granddaughter would look in this gown when she married me. Liu Ruyan could barely contain her laughter, imagining that moment. Lin Beiwei, noticing her mysterious smile, tried to peek at the letter. "What's written there? What are you laughing at?" But Liu Ruyan deftly and quickly hid the piece of paper behind her back. "Nothing special, just old news," she said dismissively, pulling a bag of gourmet snacks from her cupboard. Lin Beiwei immediately perked up. "Oh, snacks, I'm starving after training, share a piece." But Liu Ruyan, like a jealous cat, clutched the bag to herself. "Don't even think about it, I won't give you this bag. You'd better go buy something else at the store." My friend was completely shocked. "What's wrong with you lately? Who are you so diligently saving these sweets for that even your best friend feels sorry for them?" "It's a gift, I can't give it to anyone," she replied firmly, and without listening to any objections, rushed out of the room, leaving Lin Beiwei completely confused and bewildered. "That girl is clearly up to something, and it has something to do with that guy," Lin Beiwei muttered as she looked at the closed door. Just as I was about to leave the classroom after the lecture, Liu Ruyan suddenly appeared at the door of the classroom with that same bag of snacks in her hands, blocking the passage. The classroom instantly fell silent, only to explode a second later with shouts and murmurs. "Oh my God, that's the university's most beautiful girl. What is she doing in our freshman building?" Liu Ruyan, completely ignoring the crowd of dumbfounded guys, confidently walked straight towards me. "I came to take care of you, Qingyan." These words had the effect of a bombshell. She came to him personally. "What's going on here?" The envy and poorly concealed hatred in the other boy's eyes was almost palpable. I stood there, speechless at such impudence. We weren't married yet, and she was already acting as if we'd been together for ages. But I confess, there was a strange, sweet note of jealousy in her demeanor that I was even beginning to like. To ease the tense atmosphere a little, I asked politely, with a slight smile, "Liu Senior, to what do I owe this unexpected attention from you?" "These are for you, take them." She handed me the snacks, and in her gaze I read not just routine concern, but something much deeper, expectant, and tender. The entire university was buzzing again, sending the news through chat rooms. Liu Ruyan came to see that guy again. Who the hell is he, and why did she choose him? The students around them, witnessing this incredible scene, instantly grabbed their phones, trying to capture every moment. Cameras clicked, and someone exclaimed excitedly, "I caught it all. This footage will definitely be the biggest hit on Tianhai University's social media for the rest of the day." I stood there looking at Liu Ruyan in bewilderment. "Listen, you're that proud and unapproachable university beauty, right? Why did you come to feed me again? It seems like we don't even really know each other, so what's all this pretentious concern for?" I only saw Liu Ruyan smile a couple of times during this entire time, and each such episode seemed out of the ordinary to me, like ice that suddenly decided to turn into a spring stream. Those around me whispered that it must be an elaborate forgery or a cruel prank, but I couldn't simply brush it off. Accepting the treat, however, was out of the question. It would only add fuel to the gossip, and I didn't want to be embroiled in dubious intrigues while remaining faithful to my fiancé. Liu Ruyan seemed oblivious to my cold, distant tone. With a soft, disarming smile, she explained, "This is just my humble token of gratitude for last night's dinner and that wonderful mousse cake. It was truly amazing." These words caused a real sensation among the audience. Everyone around froze in shock. Are they officially dating? One orders dinner, the other returns the favor with appetizers. Is this an extended date? "Junior, don't you like snacks at all?" She looked at me carefully, almost defiantly, seeing that I still hadn't even touched the bag. You think I can't see that you're just being stubborn? Then here's how it is. Tonight I'm inviting you to a full dinner. It's the only way I can pay off the debt I owe you from yesterday. I sighed heavily. The situation was becoming increasingly delicate and dangerous. Frankly, I didn't need any rumors about a relationship with the Snow Queen. My heart already belonged to someone else, and I didn't want to offend my fiancé even indirectly. But the system. Ding! New mission activated. Accept Liu Ruyan's invitation and her snacks. Reward, investment returned tenfold. Option 2, refuse the invitation. Reward, a 10-centimeter ding-ding. Damn system, are you kidding me? I cursed furiously under my breath. I would have happily argued with her and told her to screw it all, but to preserve my dignity and a bright future with my fiancé, I had to choose the first option. I forced a polite smile on my face and replied, "Okay, I admit your appetizers look good, and I'd be happy to join you for dinner since you insist." "Really? Then we'll make a deal." Her eyes sparkled like twin stars. 6 o'clock in the second VIP booth at the country restaurant. I'll be waiting for you. Don't be late. Goodbye, Junior. Until this evening. She gave me a meaningful, piercing look and gracefully walked away, leaving behind a trail of subtle perfume. Ding, your investment has successfully generated a tenfold return. 10 million yuan has been credited to your balance. Hearing this pleasant system signal, I knew the mission was accomplished. While the crowd of students still buzzed with discussion about my presence, I hurried to slip away unnoticed through the back exit to avoid further questioning. Returning to the dorm, I was immediately faced with a heated interrogation from my 3 annoying roommates, who had clearly seen the morning news. I swore to them with all the oaths I could muster that Liu Ruyan and I had absolutely nothing in common except a chance meeting. To my immense relief, they, though dubious, nevertheless believed me. Meanwhile, Liu Ruyan herself, back in her room, was busily preparing for her evening out. Well, my stupid, stinky little brother, you're definitely going to be surprised today," she thought, excitedly rummaging through her closet. She pulled an exquisite black and white dress from the back of the closet. It was quite short. The hem barely covered her knees, revealing her slender, snow-white legs, which she usually hid from prying eyes. "Isn't this too provocative?" she blushed, looking at her reflection in the mirror. She'd never allowed herself to dress so revealingly before, but today, for the sake of her smelly brother, it didn't matter. Looking at her reflection again, she smiled contentedly. The image was flawless, exactly the kind that could make me lose my head. She was about to put on her shoes and white silk socks to complete the look, but at that crucial moment, the door to her room swung open with a bang. Her roommates burst into the room. "Oh my God, Ruyan, are you going to a world beauty contest? You look absolutely stunning. Who's the lucky guy?" "I have to go, I'm late," she snapped, trying to remain calm, although inside she was seething. Just a regular friendly meeting. She literally pushed her stunned friends out the door and ran out of the dorm, hurrying to her scheduled meeting with me. The remaining girls in the room stood in complete shock. "What's going on with this girl? She's literally glowing from within. Is this really true love?" I left the house without even attempting to preen or prepare in any way. I was deeply convinced that this dinner was simply an annoying necessity imposed by this damned dog system. When I arrived at the restaurant, I saw her immediately. Liu Ruyan looked like an angel who had descended from heaven right into this room. She was even more beautiful and alluring than I could remember. I felt emotionally exhausted, but the mere thought that I had to preserve the purity of my real bride's feelings gave me the strength not to do something stupid. "Sir, I'm sorry I kept you waiting," she whispered, approaching the table. I simply waved her off. "It's okay, don't worry. What are we going to order? I'm the one treating you today." She grabbed a bottle of orange juice to ease the awkwardness. Her unusually high heels made her move slightly unsteadily, even gracefully. Suddenly, she stumbled on level ground. The light from the lamps flickered, and she lost her balance and literally collapsed right into my arms. Before I could even react, we both ended up on the floor amid scattered napkins. At that very completely unexpected moment, our lips touched. A ringing, frightening void instantly formed in my head. My first kiss, given just like that in a public restaurant to another girl. What will I say to my lawful fiancé now? I wanted to cry with frustration, but Liu Ruyan at that moment was clearly in a completely different world. "Oh my God, I just kissed my future husband, my first kiss," her mind rejoiced. "It was so incredibly exciting, I want more." Her face was burning, but she was in no hurry to get up from the floor. Finally, I came to my senses and gently, almost timidly, pushed her away from me. I quickly wiped my lips with my sleeve. "Sister, are you okay?" "Yes, yes, I'm sorry, please. I didn't mean to do this at all," she muttered, although deep down she was hoping for a continuation. "I didn't even have time to drink this drink," she justified herself, though her heart was pounding wildly against her ribs. One kiss was too little for her. She wanted to repeat it again and again. I sat at the table, red as a ripe tomato, completely oblivious to the fact that the spilled orange juice had already soaked my clothes. "Oops, I got some juice on your foot," she exclaimed, noticing the stain. "I'll wipe it away quickly, don't move." She reached for a stack of napkins and, acting subconsciously, I began to help her, awkwardly touching her thigh with the napkin, which caused an even greater wave of embarrassment. Liu Ruyan froze, her breath caught in her throat. Men had never come so dangerously close to her before, but now, for some reason, she felt no revulsion. On the contrary, warmth spread within her. I quickly pulled my hand back, afraid that she would misunderstand me. "Sorry, I didn't mean to take advantage of the situation. I just wanted to wipe the drink off so there wouldn't be a stain." "It's absolutely fine," she replied quietly, looking me straight in the eyes. "I'm already dirty anyway. I'll go to the bathroom, take off my socks, and wash them." I jumped up from my chair in panic. I need to go to the bathroom too. "Go first, please," and practically flew out of the stall to avoid being completely consumed by the overwhelming shame. Liu Ruyan gave me a long look and then quietly laughed, looking into the void. "Smelly brother, you're so damn cute when you're so embarrassed." Returning from the restroom, I saw her sitting in a soft chair. Her legs, covered in white silk, looked provocatively beautiful, but I forced myself to look away. In my heart there was another. When she saw me, she beamed. "Junior, look, I ordered everything you like. I hope you like it." I looked at the table and froze in amazement. All the dishes were my favorites. How could she know my preferences? I thought, and hurried to finish dinner, wanting to escape this captivity as quickly as possible. I muttered, "Sister, let's eat faster, time is running out," and without waiting for her response, I simply pounced on the food. At that moment, propriety faded into the background. I simply wanted to satisfy my raging appetite, wielding my chopsticks as fast as I could, trying to empty the plates as quickly as possible. Liu Ruyan, on the other hand, ate extremely slowly, with the grace of an aristocrat, popping tiny bites into her mouth, her gaze never wavering from mine. Even despite my haste and obvious reluctance to engage in conversation, she continued to study me with undisguised interest, as if my eating were far more important to her than the meal itself. It took almost an hour for our main course to arrive, and once I'd finally finished, I decided it was time to call it a day. "Sister, maybe it's time we headed back to university," I suggested, decisively setting my chopsticks aside to signal my lack of patience. I distinctly noticed Liu Ruyan's expression darken instantly upon hearing my words. She looked at me with such longing, as if trying to hold on to the fleeting passage of time. It was clear she had absolutely no desire to say goodbye to her future husband so quickly and was frantically searching for an excuse to delay me, offering to order another dessert just to prolong our meeting. "No, thank you, senorita, I'm fed up," I replied firmly, putting an end to this dinner. "We really should get back to campus." "Okay, if you insist," she replied with a hint of hidden pride, "but then you're simply obliged to walk me straight to the door of my dorm." Wanting only one thing, to end this tiring evening as quickly as possible, I agreed without any hesitation. "Okay, no problem, I'll take you home." When we left our secluded room, the restaurant was still bustling with people. Liu Ruyan drew the attention of every customer. She looked dazzling in her exquisite attire, and many men turned to look, unable to hide their admiration for her beauty. Even I, usually accustomed to attention, felt extremely uneasy with the number of eyes focused on us, especially the envious glances of the other guys. I was completely ready to run away, just to get away from this focus of everyone's attention. I tried to deliberately increase the distance between us so that those around me wouldn't think anything unnecessary, but Liu Ruyan, as if on purpose, constantly took steps towards me, reducing the distance to a minimum. A real commotion, bordering on hysteria, broke out all around. People were whispering and frantically taking photos of us on their phones, and of course, such an unapproachable beauty as Liu Ruyan was having dinner with an ordinary freshman. I sighed heavily, realizing that tomorrow our joint adventure would likely be discussed on every university social media page. Quickening my pace, I tried to escape this spotlight as quickly as possible. I was in a foul mood. Finally, we reached the girls' dormitory, which seemed like a safe haven to me. "Senior, I brought you here, you can handle the rest on your own," I blurted out, and without even bothering to say goodbye, I turned around abruptly to run away from that place. Liu Ruyan watched my rapidly retreating silhouette with a mysterious smile. She'd gone to all that trouble to order all my favorite dishes, and I'd just up and run. She'd have to be even more persistent next time, she thought, before disappearing through the dorm door. As soon as she entered the room, she was immediately surrounded by a tight ring of curious neighbors. "Baby, come on, confess, who did you have dinner with today? So beautiful, dressed up, your eyes are shining." "No one in particular," Liu Ruyan snapped, shaking her head. She felt incredibly awkward trying to hide the truth about our dinner, which had meant so much to her. The girls started vying with each other to show her photos from students' social media of us at the restaurant. The evidence was there, and it became incredibly difficult for her to deny anything. But then Lin Beiwei suddenly changed the topic, asking suspiciously, "Ruyan, where did your white silk stockings go?" She clearly remembered seeing her friend in them before going out, and now she was deeply perplexed as to why her legs were now completely bare. Liu Ruyan began to make excuses, stumbling over her words, trying to explain that they were supposedly hopelessly stained with orange juice to hide the true reason for their absence. She even took out of her bag those very stockings, which were indeed stained with orange juice, to present them as irrefutable proof of her innocence. At the sight of them, she involuntarily blushed, remembering that intimate moment in the restaurant when I wiped her thigh with a napkin. The sound of the friction of the fabric and the touch itself were still vividly before her eyes. "It's strange," Lin Beiwei said, sniffing. "You smell distinctly of men's perfume." Liu Ruyan panicked, feeling the ground slipping from under her feet. "I'm just really tired today, I'll go take a shower," she quickly said, afraid that her friends would guess her small but such a significant secret. She practically flew into the bathroom, red as a lobster. If she stayed in the room, she knew her friends would surely see her confusion and immediately figure out the truth. Locked in the bathroom, she thought of only one thing: she had given me her first kiss, and it had been worth it. Tomorrow she would act even more decisively. This stupid husband must finally realize who his one and only betrothed is. The next morning, I was practically dragged to a noisy student club fair. Campaigners vied with each other to promise all sorts of bonuses, scholarships, and expanded social circles, all in an effort to recruit new members. A huge line formed to get into the art club. Ironically, the vast majority of those attending were men, and it was clear they weren't interested in the fine art at all, but rather in the chance to meet the girls from the club. Liu Ruyan, as the club president, looked at this chaotic flow and coldly remarked, "There are too many clueless people. We need to tighten the admission requirements immediately." Lin Beiwei wiped the sweat from her forehead and asked, "What will be the new conditions?" "Firstly, no men, they don't have a genuine motivation for painting anyway. Secondly, we only accept those whose skill level is above 5, she snapped, without batting an eye. "That's a great plan, that way we can get rid of any prying eyes," Lin Beiwei agreed, amazed by her friend's sudden determination. The new rules were immediately written in large letters on a white board and put on public display right next to the club's counter. Then she picked up a megaphone and proclaimed to the entire neighborhood, "Attention, our club is now accepting only girls with a skill level above 5. Guys, you are free to go." Hearing this, the crowd of guys sighed in disappointment. All their dreams of meeting the beauties from the art club were dashed in an instant. At that very moment, Liu Ruyan noticed me passing by in the crowd, and completely ignoring all the rules she had just announced, she hurried straight towards me. "Junior, are you joining our club?" she asked with such open hope in her eyes that it seemed like a direct violation of her own principles. The people around her froze in utter shock. She just publicly banned men from entering, and now she was inviting a guy over. I was stunned by what was happening. "What the hell is going on here? I didn't even sign up. Why are you bothering me?" "Junior, no interviews for you. Join us. We have tons of benefits. You won't regret it," Liu Ruyan persisted, completely ignoring the crowd's indignant glances. The guys around me looked at me with such undisguised envy that it seemed like I would burn under the weight of their gaze. Lin Beiwei stood there just as shocked as everyone else. Could the cold and principled Liu Ruyan really bend the rules so easily for the sake of just one guy? "Sorry, sister, I can't draw at all," I replied, pointing to the rules board. "I don't fit your criteria." The crowd around me buzzed. At that moment, I became a university legend, the first guy who dared to refuse Liu Ruyan herself. She clearly wasn't expecting a refusal, but oddly enough, she wasn't the least bit angry. Apparently, my status as future husband gave me some special privileges in her eyes. "Junior, wait, don't go," she said, and resolutely returned to the board. In front of everyone, she erased the sign prohibiting men. Returning to me, she asked with a shy smile, "Well, now there are no conditions. Will you agree to join?" Even Lin Beiwei couldn't believe her eyes. Could this really be that cold beauty? Suddenly, the system's cold voice rang out in my head. Task Option 1, agree, reward in the form of mastery of painting. Your work will generate a steady income. Option 2, decline, reward plus 50 physical strength. I stood there, hesitant, wondering which of these paths to take in this strange, unpredictable game I'd been drawn into. Although the second version of the system promised me an impressive gain of 50 centimeters, I quickly ran through all the possible consequences in my head. With such a bonus, I would have to completely update my wardrobe because my old trousers would simply burst at the seams, unable to withstand such pressure. I had to resign myself and internally crying at the loss of the chance for a radical transformation, accept the invitation. "Sister, since you're so insistent, I'll gladly join your club," I said with the most polite smile. The system immediately responded with a joyful signal. The reward had been received, my painting skill had magically increased, and sales of my future works were expected to increase tenfold in the next 3 days. Liu Ruyan beamed as if she'd won the prize of her life, ready to fly with the joy that overwhelmed her. If we weren't at a crowded fair, she seemed ready to fly around the globe 3 times. "Junior, since you're in on the action now, fill out the form quickly," she commanded, barely containing the excitement that was overwhelming her. I sat down at the table, physically feeling the withering, furious gazes of the envious men standing in the crowd. Their collective hatred seemed to fill the air with the scent of electricity and something dangerous. Liu Ruyan rested her chin on her graceful hands and looked at me with such undisguised tenderness that I felt extremely uncomfortable. She clearly anticipated that from now on I would be in her sight every single day. "Well, that's it, stinking brother, you definitely won't be able to escape me now." The silent question was written in her gaze. "Brother, you must be tired. Are you thirsty? Well, anyway, help yourself, it's for you." She handed me a bottle of water with such trepidation, as if it were a precious elixir of youth. The crowd around me gasped in surprise again. Where was the cool goddess they were all used to seeing? Guys used to try to hit on her with expensive milkshakes, but today she was serving me regular mineral water. And judging by my disgruntled expression, I wasn't exactly thrilled about all this public attention. "Just put it next to me, I'll have a drink later. By the way, you have to put your WeChat on the form, right?" I asked, frowning, as I absolutely didn't want to share my personal contacts with just anyone. "Of course, please fill it out, it's important." Liu Ruyan perked up, though a shadow of sadness briefly flickered in the depths of her eyes. She was terrified that without this number, we'd lose contact forever. Having finished writing the last lines of the questionnaire, I handed it back. "Here you go, senior. If that's all, then I'll be going. I have a lot of work to do. By the way, we have our first art studio class tomorrow at noon. Don't be late, I'll be waiting for you at the City Museum," she called after me, hope in her voice. "I'll try to be there if it works out," I replied, and without even turning around, I walked away, leaving her and everyone present deeply perplexed by my emphasized indifference. Those around me were shocked by my audacity. What blatant disrespect! How dare I treat Liu Ruyan herself so coldly and distantly? But Liu Ruyan, contrary to the crowd's expectations, actually seemed pleased. My cold departure didn't bother her at all. On the contrary, she seemed to find my unapproachability charming. Meanwhile, the onlookers' attention shifted to the studio itself, where just yesterday no one could have even imagined introducing any strict conditions for recruitment. Liu Ruyan suddenly turned to the crowd and declared with icy calm, "Attention everyone, new rules. From now on, we're only accepting female artists into the studio, and only those with a skill level of at least level 5. The crowd buzzed. Just a minute ago, she'd invited me, a guy who couldn't even draw properly. It was a complete, blatant contradiction. Lin Beiwei, who was standing next to her, leaned towards her and whispered, "Ruyan, you are too frank. The people around you are not blind. They understand everything. Let them say what they want. I don't care what others think." Liu Ruyan snapped, completely unconcerned about how her behavior appeared to others. In her world, only I existed now, and all these rules were just a way to get my attention. That night, Liu Ruyan was restless. She was so excited by the thought of seeing me every day that she couldn't sleep at all. Unable to bear it, she decided to message me on WeChat. She found my number and sent a request, typing with trembling fingers. "I've waited so long, why haven't you accepted the application yet?" She was nervous and angry at herself for this inappropriate impatience. Hours passed, she kept checking her phone, wondering if she'd dialed the wrong number. She sent requests again and again, but there was still no answer. Liu Ruyan tried to console herself with the thought that I probably just left my phone somewhere far away and didn't hear her notifications. But in reality, I saw every message she sent. I just didn't want to engage in that personal communication, so I methodically and coldly ignored all her requests. Our photos from the fair have been widely circulated on student social media for 2 days now. If my real fiancé found out, jealousy and a serious conversation would be inevitable. The next day, Lin Weiwei, our club's teacher and vice president, dropped by the studio. He was a typical narcissist whose actual artistic talents were highly questionable. He arrived early, sincerely hoping to boast about how, effectively, he was helping Liu Ruyan and just show off in front of her. Upon seeing Liu Ruyan, he immediately broke into a saccharine smile. "Ruyan, my beauty, I missed you so much all holiday. How are you?" She replied as coldly as possible, "It's fine." Her gaze kept wandering to the studio doors, her thoughts preoccupied with someone else entirely. "By the way," she added, "do you know why my youngest hasn't accepted my friend request yet? He hasn't responded all night." Lin Weiwei instantly struck to the quick frowned. "Who are you even talking about, Ruyan?" "Don't worry about anyone," she muttered, not even deigning to look in his direction. Lin Weiwei continued to try to win her favor. "Ruyan, we've known each other for a whole year. Could you at least give me your contact information? We can add you as friends and chat." "No, I don't add just anyone to my personal WeChat," she snapped, putting him in his place once again. At that very moment, I slowly crossed the threshold of the studio. Upon seeing me, Liu Ruyan's eyes lit up with undisguised delight. She immediately ran up to me. "Junior, how did you get here? I waited all night last night. Why didn't you accept my request?" I just shrugged. "I don't like adding people on this app." "Senior Liu, your hairstyle is kind of weird today. It's unusual." She flared up. "Smelly brother, I'm actually the president of the club, and I've been waiting for you all night." She almost blurted out her deep feelings, but bit her tongue just in time. Lin Weiwei's face turned white with rage. How was this possible? He'd been trying to get her attention for years, and this goddess didn't even bother to speak to him, yet she treated me like a sulking brat. "Senior Liu, my WeChat contact list is full. I don't like unnecessary people." I tried to dodge again. Liu Ruyan was desperate. She longed to have me as a friend, but her natural shyness prevented her from directly admitting her true intentions. She came up with a new excuse. "We need to communicate somehow about club matters, events, schedule. We can't do without a private chat." Lin Beiwei, standing nearby and watching, only shook her head sadly. Liu Ruyan was so blinded by her emotions that she had even forgotten how to lie. That much was obvious to everyone. "Okay, if it's just for the club's business, then so be it." I gave in, seeing that I wouldn't be able to get rid of her. Liu Ruyan breathed a sigh of relief when I finally took out my phone. As soon as she saw my smartphone screen, she beamed like a child who unexpectedly received her favorite candy. Her heart was touched. She saw that I still kept her contact information in plain sight. God, how sweet she thought that was. She completely forgot about the grievances of the previous night, her eyes filled with tears of joy, and in a fit of emotion, she slapped me on the shoulder. "Senior Liu, I've accepted the application. Please let me go, it hurts," I muttered, trying to maintain the remnants of my composure under her intense, almost devouring gaze. I sighed heavily, realizing that I had gotten myself into even more trouble just by accepting one unfortunate request. Lin Beiwei looked at us with an expression as if she'd witnessed the collapse of a great legend. Before her eyes, the cold goddess was transforming into an ordinary girl in love, and the sight was truly shocking. Lin Weiwei was seething with hidden anger, his face twisted into a grimace he tried to hide. He knew in his bones that as long as I was here by Liu Ruyan's side, he had no chance of winning even a shred of favor. A cunning plan had formed in his mind to force me out of this circle at any cost, to remove this annoying obstacle from his path. Gathering his courage and plastering on his most false, patronizing smile, he headed straight for me. "Listen, Junior, you're new here, aren't you? I'm Lin Weiwei, vice president of our esteemed circle and incidentally, your painting teacher." "Hello, Lin Zucheng, nice to meet you," I replied, trying to maintain a polite and reserved tone so as not to give him any further reason to pick on me. "I was informed that Liu Ruyan herself recruited you," he he asked, looking me straight in the eye with a piercing, barely perceptible squint, trying to overwhelm me with his authority. Yes, it's true, she invited me personally. Is something wrong, or perhaps you think the choice of club president was a mistake? I retorted, not looking down and not giving him the slightest chance to gain the upper hand. Nothing special, just stating the facts. Our club demands a high level of skill. I heard you can't hold a brush at all. If that's true, then you don't belong here. I advise you to find a simpler club where talent isn't so important, he said with poorly concealed, venomous contempt. Liu Ruyan, standing nearby, visibly tensed, her shoulders straightening. She'd insisted on my presence here, and seeing this smug upstart trying to bully me was completely unbearable. Art is always a profound process of development, I replied as calmly as possible, maintaining my composure. Some people study for years while others grasp the basics in a flash. I'm confident I can handle any challenge. Can you handle it? Don't make me laugh. We're a real team here. You'll only hold everyone back with your utter incompetence, Lin Weiwei persisted, his eyes darting around the other participants, seeking their approval and support. The studio was filled with girls who were accustomed to idolizing their teacher, Lin Weiwei. They began whispering among themselves, casting sideways, judgmental glances in my direction, clearly sharing their idol's stance. Liu Ruyan was about to step in to tear him to pieces and protect my honor, but I gently stopped her with a look, showing that I could handle it myself. Yesterday I did say I couldn't draw, but that doesn't mean I can't put in a decent performance right now. I smiled slightly, remembering my activated skill system. Let's just get things done. Lin Weiwei was taken aback by my unexpected audacity, but quickly pulled himself together, anticipating my failure. He was absolutely certain he would fail me on the very first try. Fine, since you're so self-assured, pick up your brushes and paint. If we're not satisfied with the results, you'll leave voluntarily and without a fuss. He delivered a harsh ultimatum, anticipating my embarrassment in front of everyone. Junior, don't agree to this, Liu Ruyan whispered excitedly. I'm the president here. I'll decide who gets in and who doesn't without any stupid checks. I just nodded briefly and confidently to her, showing that I had everything under control and knew what I was doing. It's okay, Ruyan. If I don't draw something decent, I'll leave myself, I promise. Lin Weiwei chuckled contentedly as he rubbed his hands. Well, show off your hidden skills, genius. He prepared a place for me with feigned cordiality and laid out my instruments. His eyes gleamed with malicious triumph. He could already see me fail miserably and become the laughingstock of the entire studio. Liu Ruyan was almost biting her lips with nerves, trying again and again to dissuade me from this dangerous undertaking, but I was already completely focused on work. I sat down at the easel, picked up the brush, and felt its weight. It fit my palm with astonishing perfection, like an extension of my own hand. Come on, draw. What are you frozen for, or are you scared already? Lin Weiwei urged me, enjoying the moment of my supposed confusion. Be quiet, I'm thinking about the composition, I snapped, without even turning my head in his direction. I quickly began mixing paints. Although my skills were new, they became second nature to my movements. The tools were old and worn, but in my hands they seemed to come alive. Lin Weiwei, watching my movements, merely chuckled, thinking I was simply moving the brush across the canvas incoherently, making chaotic strokes. Liu Ruyan watched my every move, holding her breath. She was already mentally prepared to work with me individually, just to keep me in the club by any means necessary. Gradually, my movements became more confident and meaningful, but what came out on paper in the first minutes initially seemed to those around me just a set of vague, strange strokes. A quiet, mocking chuckle rippled through the studio. What is this? Can you even call this a drawing? The girls began to whisper, disappointed by my creativity. Lin Weiwei was practically beaming with happiness. My failure was so obvious that he was already celebrating victory. Lin Beiwei was also completely perplexed. Ruyan, what is he even doing? Is this some kind of ridiculous modern abstraction? Liu Ruyan remained silent. Her heart was heavy with worry for me, but until the very last moment she continued to believe that I wouldn't let her down. I stopped suddenly, applied the final decisive stroke, and put the brush down. Done. Lin Weiwei was the first to jump up to the easel and, bursting into laughter, said, "Is that all? What kind of ridiculous, meaningless scribble is this?" The other participants also began shaking their heads disapprovingly, looking at the painting. But then I silently approached and slowly turned the tablet upside down. In an instant, such a deep, deathly silence reigned in the studio that you could hear the trees swaying outside the window. The painting suddenly revealed a plump, incredibly realistic little girl, squatting, holding a wounded bird in her arms with infinite, touching tenderness. The expression on her face was so lifelike that it pierced the very depths of her soul. "Oh my God," one of the girls whispered, covering her mouth with her hand. "This isn't just a drawing, it's a masterpiece." The mastery of detail, the emotion conveyed, it was completely beyond the comprehension of the average student. Lin Beiwei stared at the painting, her eyes wide, speechless. She never expected that the boy, whom everyone had considered an amateur until that moment, would possess such a divine gift. Liu Ruyan looked at the drawing, and her eyes immediately glistened with tears. She instantly recognized herself. It was her as a child, and the scene was completely based on a real event 10 years earlier when she found a wounded bird in our shared yard. She couldn't believe I still held onto that memory after so many years. So did that mean I attached as much significance to that meeting as she did? Liu Ruyan was ready to rush towards me and hug me right there in front of everyone. She was so overcome with emotion. I glanced around the silent studio and looked straight at Lin Weiwei. "Well, Lin Zucheng, can I stay in the circle now?" The girls' gazes, which just a moment ago had been loudly judging me, changed to reverent and admiring ones. Their attitude toward me changed in an instant, turning into adoration. Lin Weiwei paled, realizing he'd lost on all fronts. "Fine, let him stay," he muttered, feeling utterly humiliated, and hastily retreated from the studio. As soon as he came out, a dense crowd instantly formed around me. "Junior, where did you learn to draw so incredibly? It's simply a miracle. Please teach us this skill," came the questions from all sides. "Are you free tonight? We could have dinner, and you could show me a few moves yourself," one of the bolder girls added flirtatiously. Liu Ruyan, seeing how the competitors had surrounded me, immediately intervened decisively. "Okay, everyone, move over. He's very tired after drawing for so long, don't bother him." She took my hand, clearly demonstrating to everyone around me that I was now busy. Lin Beiwei chuckled. "Ruyan, you're amazing." It was clear from the start that he had tremendous talent. The other participants continued to shower me with compliments, admiring my appearance and skills, and Liu Ruyan proudly held my arm, openly enjoying this triumph. Liu Ruyan was visibly embarrassed, a slight blush appearing on her cheeks. She clearly hadn't expected everything to come out so openly and publicly, but deep down, she was infinitely pleased with this turn of events. Of course, I knew from the start that he was incredibly talented, she thought. Otherwise, why would I have been so persistent in dragging him into my club? "Don't get cocky," I chuckled to myself, trying to maintain an outward calm. I felt how this unexpectedly heartless scene with my acknowledged talent literally stunned those around me, leaving them speechless. "President, so that's the whole point." The attractive photographer, who had been eyeing my easel skeptically until then, suddenly exclaimed. "Yet last night we all unanimously decided that you invited him over simply because you liked him as a guy." "How could I? I just professionally assessed him as an artist." Liu Ruyan began to frantically justify herself, giving the photographer a kind but somewhat forced smile, trying to hide her true, raging feelings. "Please don't get me wrong, everything here is purely for the sake of art." Hearing this argument, the photographer beamed as if she had discovered treasure. "Since our president is completely indifferent to it, that means we mere mortals finally have a real chance." The girl immediately turned to me, radiating enthusiasm. "King Yin, can I add you on WeChat? I have so many deep questions about your amazing drawing technique." The other club members, instantly picking up on this message, formed a tight circle around me. That's right. Young man, are you by any chance available to meet new people?" Liu Ruyan's jealousy began to seethe before my very eyes. Looking at the noisy crowd surrounding me, she sincerely regretted ever inviting me to the studio. "Sorry, I don't add new people to my personal WeChat yet," I said coldly and distantly, nipping any intrusive attempts at introductions in the bud. "Maybe some other time." Liu Ruyan smiled contentedly, barely containing her triumph. This stinking brother still knows how to keep his distance. That's commendable. As soon as the studio emptied and all the curious onlookers had dispersed, I took a step toward her. "Liu Senior, can I ask you for a favor?" I asked her with the most polite intonation. "Of course, Junior, what exactly is bothering you?" She had clearly been waiting for this moment, deathly afraid that I would disappear into the fog again, like yesterday. "I wanted to learn more about the contemporary art market. You're an expert in this field, right?" "I understand, I can help with that." She nodded vigorously, afraid to miss the chance to extend our conversation. Do you want to buy a rare work or exhibit yours? Ask me anything, I'll tell you everything. She pointedly locked the studio door lest any curious onlookers disturb us at this crucial moment. Well, Junior, there's no one here now. Tell me what you wanted to discuss. I carefully took out my painting. What do you think is the fair price for which this work could be sold on the current market? Liu Ruyan instantly became extremely serious, carefully examining every brushstroke and play of light. I must admit, the quality of the workmanship is simply stunning. The detail borders on perfection. On a regular market, a work like this would fetch at least 100,000. But if you put it up for auction at a major prestigious auction, the price could skyrocket to 300,000, no more and no less, she added in her usual expert tone, not taking her eyes off the painting. Wen Yan, you're a true master. It's hard to believe this is your first such serious work, she added admiringly, looking at me with undisguised adoration. Since the market values it, I'm determined to sell it, I said, looking at her resolutely. Will you help me with this? Liu Ruyan's gaze shifted from the painting to me, and a hint of determination flashed in her eyes. Since you're serious about selling it, how about selling it to me? I'm willing to buy that painting of the girl for 200,000 right now. No, I don't want to sell this particular work. I firmly shook my head, refusing the deal. Why not? You just said you wanted to sell your paintings. I'm willing to pay 200,000. That's a completely fair price for a beginner. Liu Ruyan was genuinely surprised by my categorical refusal. No, this painting depicts the most important person to me, I snapped, my tone brooking no argument. I can't give it away so easily. Liu Ruyan froze as if struck by lightning. Her heart skipped a beat and her eyes filled with betraying moisture. Could it really be? It was her. Since she's so dear to your heart, I'll raise the bid, double the price, 400,000. Will you sell her to me for that amount? Her voice trembled noticeably with excitement. I looked at her carefully. Well, 400,000 is a completely different matter. Agreed. She was shocked, realizing that I had just sold her own image for such a hefty sum. Although she felt a little bought, she still replied with a smile, no problem. I'll buy it for 400,000. Do you agree to that? Good, since you have a taste for beauty, I smiled. Take care of her. She truly is the most important person in my life. Within minutes, an official notification of the transfer of funds arrived in my bank account. By the way, Senior, are you free tomorrow? I need to sell a few more paintings and I'm still a complete newbie at this. I asked her for help. Of course, I'm completely free. I know the right people in this field and I'll help you arrange everything in the best possible way, Liu Ruyan readily replied, not missing a single opportunity to spend even more time with me. Thank you, eldest. Then tomorrow's dinner is on me, I said, causing a new wave of delight in her, barely concealed behind a mask of calm. Liu Ruyan couldn't resist asking, listen, who is that girl in the painting? The most important person, you say? I looked her straight in the eyes. She is my fiancée, the very one I will marry in the very near future. Liu Ruyan's face lit up with a happiness I'd never seen before. Brother, you haven't disappointed me. If the wedding is scheduled for the end of the year, I'll be waiting for you even in my wedding dress. Returning to the dorm, she was so beaming you could see her from afar. Her friends immediately formed a tight circle around her. Julian, why are you so late? What interesting happened in the workshop? Oh, I just helped a very talented student evaluate his work, she replied calmly, trying not to show excessive joy. Lin Beiwei suddenly saw the package she was holding in her hands. Oh, is this the painting? Was it a gift to you? No, I bought it for 400,000, Ruyan admitted honestly and directly. Are you completely crazy? 400,000 for one painting? It's worth 100,000 at the most on the market, Lin Beiwei exclaimed indignantly. He's blatantly deceived you. Let's go see him right now and find out how he dared to so cynically profit from you. Lin Beiwei was ready to fight. Stop this immediately, Liu Ruyan snapped. I wanted to buy it myself. It was my conscious decision. You're simply blinded. 400,000 for a guy who so cleverly conned you. Lin Beiwei couldn't accept such stupidity. This painting is priceless to me, Liu Ruyan said quietly, pressing the canvas to her chest and feeling a pleasant warmth spreading inside her. The friends just looked at each other, shaking their heads sadly. Liu Ruyan was absolutely hopelessly in love. The next morning, I woke up unusually early. Just after washing my face, I received a message from Liu Ruyan. Smelly brother, get up. We agreed to go to the art gallery. Don't you dare be late. I replied with a smile, I'm already up. What do you want for breakfast? I'll stop by the cafe and bring it to you. I want rice with egg and warm, salty soy milk. It's been my favorite breakfast since childhood, she wrote, subtly hinting at the similarity of our tastes. And hurry up, I'm waiting for you. I was so preoccupied with the upcoming deal that Liu Ruyan's messages flew right past my mind. It's okay, no need to rush, I replied as briefly and matter-of-factly as possible. I'll be down in exactly 15 minutes, just wait. She sent something else about just finishing washing her hair and now fiddling with the hair dryer, but I wasn't paying attention to those details anymore. Thoughts about how to most profitably sell my work completely crowded out everything else. Seeing another bubble with her long message on the screen, I didn't even bother opening it. I simply pocketed my phone and leisurely walked out of the dorm, heading for the university's main gate. On the other hand, Liu Ruyan, looking at her smartphone screen and seeing that I'd ignored her thoughtful message, felt a mixture of indignation and resentment boiling inside. What an insufferable guy, she whispered, frowning with displeasure. Lin Beiwei, rubbing her sleepy eyes with difficulty, stared at her friend in surprise. Ruyan, aren't you yourself today? It's Saturday, the sun is just breaking. Why are you up at the crack of dawn? I'm going to the studio on business. Don't expect me for lunch. I'll be busy, she said, energetically working the hair dryer to style her unruly locks and already thinking through the concept of her makeup. Noticing her unusual fussiness and the meticulousness with which she selected her makeup, Lin Beiwei couldn't resist teasing her. Little one, you're just not yourself today. A queen of the evening makeup routine just for a trip to the studio? Admit it, who are you really on a date with? What date? I'm just going to check out the state-of-the-art industry, she snapped, though her hands trembled with excitement as she selected her luxurious black Parisian outfit, bought especially for this day. Of course, industry, who in their right mind would believe that? You're all in black, the spitting image of a femme fatale from a movie, her friend continued teasing, watching her transformation. Liu Ruyan truly looked stunning in this dress. Her natural charm, combined with the strict, elegant cut, was simply off the charts, and any man who laid eyes on her would be hard-pressed to resist genuine admiration. You look like the morning star, Lin Beiwei persisted. You were an innocent white lady once, and now you're black jade. You're clearly head over heels in love, Ruyan, it's obvious. Liu Ruyan didn't reply, only pressed her lips tighter to hide her embarrassment. Quickly slipping on a pair of dizzyingly high heels, she fluttered out of the room, trying to appear unperturbed. I waited for her at the gate, lazily shifting from foot to foot, clutching a bag of lunch. When she emerged from the gate, the very embodiment of style and grace, I was momentarily speechless. She looked so dazzling in this image that everything familiar around her seemed to lose its color. Everything inside me trembled like a string. Her beauty was so bright, sharp, and unusual that I simply could not take my eyes off her, feeling my breath catch. It felt as if the sun had hidden behind the clouds and everything around had suddenly gone dark, leaving only her, clear, alive, and incredibly attractive. I was struck not only by her appearance, but also by the natural grace with which she moved and how perfectly the dress sat on her. Well, let's go, the taxi is almost here, I said, trying to hide my shock as matter-of-factly as possible behind feigned indifference. We got into the car. Liu Ruyan tried to sit close to me, closing the distance, but I was completely immersed in my thoughts about the paintings, feverishly calculating how to sell them profitably. She was clearly irritated. What a rough-hewn tree, such a beauty sitting next to him, breathing down his neck, and he's still thinking about his money and deals. At that moment, the taxi driver slammed on the brakes. A child jumped out of nowhere onto the road. Liu Ruyan, not expecting such a sudden jerk, leaped forward. She found herself right in my arms. The scent of her expensive perfume and the amazing softness of her body instantly enveloped me, disorienting me. To keep her from hitting the chair, I instinctively and very tightly hugged her. Liu Senior, are you okay? Are you hurt? I asked, still holding her tightly. She only nodded weakly, recovering from her fright. I think I sprained my wrist a little when I fell, she whispered, still clinging to me with her whole body. I felt genuine pity for her and instinctively took her hand in mine. Let me massage you, it'll help, I said. When I gently touched her soft skin, she shuddered in surprise. Liu Ruyan was completely at a loss, secretly enjoying this rare moment of intimacy. She looked at me with such undisguised adoration that I felt extremely awkward. I still considered myself the smelly brother who, by some strange irony, had become the center of her universe. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror and grinned good-naturedly. "Beauty, what a caring boyfriend you have, you're lucky." Liu Ruyan blushed to the roots of her hair, unable to utter a word. She was absolutely happy to hear this, but I hastened to clarify so that there would be no misunderstandings. "Master, you have completely misunderstood the situation," I snapped. Although Liu Ruyan no longer heard my excuses, she was too deeply immersed in her girlish dreams. When we emerged, she walked, her heels barely touching the asphalt, as if in a pleasant trance. Plans for our upcoming engagement at the end of the year were already forming in her head. The gallery deal went through successfully and faster than I expected, with total revenue reaching 2.4 million. "A fortune," she exclaimed admiringly. "What are you planning to do with all that money now?" I answered seriously, looking out the window. "I'm saving up for the wedding." "What?" She blinked, deciding that the bride was, of course, her. She smiled shyly, certain that I had already decided everything for both of us. "I want to give my future wife the best in this world, so I need to work hard and long," I added, looking at her. Liu Ruyan almost burst into tears from these words, feeling that I valued her above all the blessings in the world. "Stinky, I'm starting to envy your future wife," she said, coquettishly playing with a strand of hair and hinting at herself. I laughed. "Okay, as a token of my gratitude for your help, I'm taking you to the most expensive restaurant in town. Maybe we should just go somewhere for noodles," she suddenly suggested, smiling softly. I was very surprised. "Are you serious? You're wearing such a fancy outfit. Let's go to a normal hot pot instead." "A hot pot is a great idea," she agreed, and we happily headed towards the restaurant. I suggested that she order whatever her heart desired, but she behaved surprisingly modestly and reservedly. She chose the ingredients with such care, as if she was trying to save every yuan from my budget. "I'm on a strict diet, I don't need more," she justified herself, although in reality she simply didn't want to spend my hard-earned money. I saw how she took care of my wallet, and it was incredibly touching and pleasant. "But seriously, how do you imagine your future wife?" she suddenly asked, trying to find out my secret thoughts. I was silent for a second, looking at her across the smoking table. Memories of that 11-year-old girl and the current image of the beautiful lady before my eyes were strangely intertwined. I couldn't tell her the whole truth. "I have a rough idea of an ideal woman," I said, "but she will be nothing like you." "Why, don't you want her to be at least half as beautiful and stunning as me?" she asked indignantly and coquettishly, adjusting her hair and looking me in the eyes defiantly. "Does this image even resemble me?" flashed through her mind, but she wisely remained silent. However, as I peered at her in the dim light of the restaurant, I caught myself thinking something absurd. Liu Ruyan at that moment looked frighteningly harmonious, like a real young wife. I shook my head, trying to dispel this vision, which seemed utterly absurd to me. "Liu Ruyan is such a weirdo, you'll never get bored with her. I wonder what kind of violent reaction this smelly brother will have when he finally figures out that she's his mysterious fiancée." Liu Ruyan seemed to be pondering something extremely important, judging by her suddenly serious expression. "By the way," she said, looking me straight in the eye, "since you're so incredibly talented at painting, perhaps you could teach me? I really want to master this skill under your guidance." I decided to let her study. After all, her request was understandably selfish. She was simply looking for an excuse to spend more time with me, and I decided that taking a few steps toward meeting each other halfway wouldn't be the worst thing to do. I didn't even have time to wait for the system to speak again before I heard something in my head. "Listen," it said dryly, "pick one option. Promise Liu Ruyan to teach her how to paint. The reward is a master-level painting skill." I understood perfectly well that any rejection of this request would automatically mean the loss of a rare reward. I just chuckled to myself. The system was once again forcing me into a corner with its ultimatum. "Choosing the second option will turn you into a eunuch," my inner voice added sarcastically. "Well, no problem. If she's so passionate about learning painting, I'm ready to become her mentor. I've learned to close the distance between people, so I decided to try this method with you," she said mysteriously, smiling faintly. "Okay, since you insist, I'll order us some wine to celebrate the start of classes," I replied, scanning the QR code on the table with my smartphone. Soon the waiter brought a bottle of exquisite red wine. I poured Liu Ruyan only half a glass, afraid she might get drunk too quickly and make a scene. She looked closely at the wine as if studying its structure. Taking her first cautious sip, she noted that it had a pleasant, sweet-sour taste and was suspiciously easy to drink. Apparently letting her guard down, Liu Ruyan drained her entire glass in one gulp. You seemed hungry. I was genuinely surprised. How did you manage to drink it so quickly? It's fine, I'm a master of sports in alcoholic beverages, she replied with a sly, slightly tipsy smile, but a second later her head began to droop toward the table. Her posture was still graceful, but it was clear she was completely lost. After finishing my drink, I stood up from my seat to help Liu Ruyan up and prevent her from falling face down into her plate. She was completely unprepared for such help, clutching my neck, and her eyes were filled with utter confusion. Looking at my face, she suddenly broke into a happy smile. "Brother, you are so handsome," and the next second her lips were on mine. I froze for a moment, unable to breathe. Oh my God, my sister kissed me. For the second time in my life, I felt like I'd saved the entire world in my past incarnation. It was so overwhelming. I quickly came to my senses and gently but firmly pushed Liu Ruyan away, casually wiping my lips with the back of my hand. "Little sister, wake up and come to your senses," I said sternly, trying to maintain the last of my composure. A bitter regret welled up inside me. If I'd known in advance that things would turn out this way, I never would have ordered this wine. My first, truly meaningful kiss was meant for my fiancé, and now Liu Ruyan had unceremoniously snatched it away. Sighing, I sat her down again, trying not to look in her direction. Well, I muttered under my breath, "if you don't know how to drink, don't even try. You robbed me of my first kiss, and now you're sitting here like nothing happened." I asked the waiter to bring a soft blanket, covered her up, and ordered some hot, sobering soup, frantically trying to bring the girl to her senses before she did something worse. Having dealt with these troubles, I was finally able to calmly finish my cooling hot pot, although my appetite was thoroughly spoiled. Half an hour later, Liu Ruyan, having drunk a portion of soup, slowly came to her senses. "Why am I here? I just drank wine. Did I really get drunk that quickly?" I just laughed. "Who here was bragging about being able to drink a whole bottle? Why did you pass out after half a glass?" "It's just that today was a bad day," she blushed, hiding her gaze, and then added cautiously, "When I was drunk, did I do something wrong?" I just remained silent, looking at her intently, which made her even more embarrassed. Seeing my face, Liu Ruyan seemed to realize it was far from a dream. But the strangest thing was, she didn't feel guilty. On the contrary, she felt bold, as if she'd finally done something she'd never dared before. After finishing feeding her, I carefully escorted Liu Ruyan to the threshold of the women's dormitory. Lying in bed, she immediately texted me, "Stinky, thank you so much for the hot soup and care. I really appreciated it. If it weren't for your help with the appraisal, I would never have sold that painting for that amount," she added in a subsequent message. I quickly answered, and Liu Ruyan seemed to beam at the other end of the line. "It's all thanks to your talent. By the way, don't forget you promised to teach me how to draw." "Don't worry, little sister, I always keep my word," I assured her so that she would finally calm down. She suddenly remembered my painting archery and began dreaming about tomorrow's lesson. The mere thought of us being alone in the studio made her blush deeply, even in the dark room. At that very moment, the door opened and her neighbors walked in. "Our beauty is back. Who are you flirting with so tenderly?" Lin Beiwei teased. Liu Ruyan tried to remain calm, but Lin Beiwei immediately took out her phone. "Don't hide it. We saw a photo of you having dinner together at a restaurant." Liu Ruyan's face flushed. "It was just a regular business dinner." "Really? Then why are you so red as a tomato?" "It's just terribly hot here," she justified herself, trying to hide her obvious embarrassment. "Since you don't need him, I can take care of him myself," Lin Beiwei joked. "He has such an amazing technique. I'd really like to learn from him too." Liu Ruyan immediately became nervous. "No, you can't hit on him. That's out of the question." The friends burst into laughter. "Gotcha, we know you like him. Don't you want to share your little cutie?" "Who could possibly like him? It's just a business relationship, nothing more." She tried to deny it, but of course, no one believed her. "Investment?" Lin Beiwei chuckled. "Who would believe in an artist without a name, without a personal connection?" "You just don't understand anything. He's very popular now, and these are not empty words," Liu Ruyan snapped, defending my reputation. The next morning, I saw a message. "Teacher Gu, I'm awake. When will our lesson begin?" I replied that I was going to an exhibition in the morning and was ready to paint after lunch. Liu Ruyan immediately jumped at the chance to go with me to the exhibition. "I'm going too. We'll look at the films together. It'll be educational," she wrote. At first I wanted to refuse, but remembering yesterday, I softened a little. Okay, I'll be waiting for you at the main gate in 5 minutes. I'm running. Liu Ruyan immediately jumped up, quickly washed herself, and put on her favorite delicate white dress. She was in such a hurry that she didn't even have time to put on makeup properly. However, no matter how fast she ran, 10 minutes had already passed. Oh no, King Yin has probably already left, she thought with horror. Running up to the gate, she saw that no one was there, and her face instantly darkened with disappointment and annoyance. And suddenly, right behind me, I heard my voice. Were you in such a hurry that you didn't even have breakfast? Here, I bought you some food. Liu Ruyan's heart skipped a beat. I stood there, patiently waiting for her, despite my lateness. She was deeply touched by my concern, realizing I wasn't as cold as I pretended. This fleeting scene brought a sudden surge of nostalgia. Once in my distant childhood, someone, my fiancé, had followed me literally at my heels in exactly the same way. At first, this childish stubbornness and affection irritated me, seeming excessive, almost suffocatingly obsessive. But now, looking at Liu Ruyan, who was fussing around me with such sincerity, I felt a strange, enveloping warmth, as if I had inhaled the scent of forgotten memories suddenly revived. "What are you staring at? Are you really that hungry?" I asked, noticing Liu Ruyan's visibly nervous expression under my gaze. I gently waved my hand in front of her face, trying to gently distract her from her sad thoughts and embarrassment. "Yes, I'm really hungry. Thank you, brother," she replied quickly, stumbling slightly. She took the bag from me with a special gratitude, as if it were a precious gift and not just an ordinary breakfast. An egg pancake, a glass of warm soy milk. My taste preferences hadn't changed for years. It was strange, and at the same time pleasant to see her remember these little things that I thought I'd long since stopped flaunting. Hearing her call me brother again, I couldn't help but frown. This address, which I'd always associated with that same girl from childhood, my fiancée, seemed deeply inappropriate coming from Liu Ruyan. "Listen," I said, trying to speak softly but firmly, "in the future, call me by my first name, Gu Qingyan, or at least simply Senior. The word brother is too ambiguous. Let's agree to change that." But Liu Ruyan merely narrowed her eyes mischievously, sparks dancing in her eyes. "No, I like it this way. I want to call you brother." "Brother, brother," she repeated, deliberately drawing out the words. It seemed my hint had the opposite effect. She took it as a game and now teased me even more diligently. I sighed heavily, realizing I couldn't win this battle of wills. "Fine," I gave in, waving my hand. "Call it what you want. You're not going to back down." Half an hour later, we were leisurely wandering the bustling aisles of the cultural festival. "Senior," Liu Ruyan suddenly asked, leaning in a little closer, "where can I find the best and biggest antique shop here?" I confidently pointed at a sign a little further away, "Fanshan Antiques Shop." It houses works from virtually every era, a true mecca for collectors. Respectable businessmen and connoisseurs often stop by to make serious deals. We stepped inside and were instantly drawn into the store. A unique atmosphere reigned. People in expensive suits milled about, animated discussions took place, and the rustling of scrolls and the clink of porcelain could be heard. In this chaotic crowd, my gaze suddenly caught a familiar face. It was Mr. Su Gang, who had purchased 3 works from me yesterday. He also noticed me, and a genuine smile lit up his face. Su Gang rushed forward. "Oh, little brother, what a wonderful meeting. What brings you to our humble establishment?" "Well, I came to look at a couple of old works," I replied, bowing briefly in greeting, after which we exchanged a few polite phrases and delved into studying the display cases. Liu Ruyan followed me like a faithful shadow. She glanced around shyly, constantly adjusting her dress and carefully staying close, as if we were a couple on a date. Soon, my gaze was drawn to an unremarkable landscape depicting mountains and water. I stopped, mesmerized, and began to carefully examine every line and brushstroke on this yellowed canvas. After a few minutes of intense thought, I turned to the shop owner, who hadn't paid any attention to us until then. "Boss, how much do you value this painting at?" He didn't even look up from his papers, throwing out indifferently, 1,000 yuan. "Take it if you want, the price is final." "I'll take it," I replied curtly, making no attempt to bargain. His obvious indifference didn't bother me in the least. I knew in my gut that I'd found a real treasure, hidden from the eyes of the uninitiated. Liu Ruyan, who had been standing next to me the whole time, leaned toward my ear and whispered in bewilderment, "Brother, are you crazy? This is an outright fake and a very low quality. Can't you see how bad it is?" I just smiled mysteriously at her in response and, without saying a word of explanation, carefully rolled the scroll into a tight tube. The quality of the ink truly looked rough, and the paper seemed cheap and worn. Looking at it from the outside, no one in their right mind would have believed it could be the work of the great master Tang Bohu. Liu Ruyan was clearly disappointed with my purchase. In her opinion, spending 1,000 yuan on this daub was pure madness, unworthy of an expert like me. After leaving the store, we found a quiet, secluded corner in the backyard, where I finally decided to lay my cards on the table. Su Gang, who had followed us out of pure curiosity, couldn't resist asking first, "Little brother, what's the secret behind this painting? Why did you buy it?" "This is a true masterpiece of Tang Bohu," I answered with all seriousness, looking into his eyes. "Just hidden." "What, Tang Bohu? You're kidding, right?" Su Gang's eyes widened in surprise, and he even took a step back. Even Liu Ruyan, who was still skeptical, shook her head, looking doubtfully at this plain, rough sketch. I said nothing, only carefully lifting the edge of the top layer with my fingernail and slowly peeling it away, millimeter by millimeter. Beneath the layer of cheap ink applied on top, the real, magnificent, and exquisite painting began to emerge. Su Gang froze, unable to believe his eyes. Before him was a genuine portrait by Tang Bohu. This painting had been gathering dust in the shop for years, and not a single expert passing by had been able to discern the talent hidden beneath the false surface. Su Gang looked at me with undisguised awe. My ability to see the essence of things made him finally realize I was not just a talented student, I was a true, unrivaled master of painting. Liu Ruyan was no less amazed. She looked at me with such admiration that her eyes literally shone with pride for me. "My fiancé is a real treasure," flashed through her head. "He is incredibly handsome, mysterious, and so talented." At that moment, she felt like the luckiest girl in the world that she had chosen me. "Boss Su, will you help me sell it through your channels?" I asked, putting the scroll away. "Of course," he responded readily. "For you, no problem, I'll make it look its best." Realizing that the job was done and feeling a pleasant sense of satisfaction, Su Gang added, "It's almost noon. I insist, let's have lunch together at my expense."